I'm going to be talking about how to move on. I'm not going to give you too many steps. I'm going to give you just one key that it really helped my life. That really woke me up to the reason of why people stay in toxic situations, why people stay in bad situations that they know for a fact is no good for their life. And so I wanted to give you something that might just change your mindset. A lot of us, we stay, and I'm gonna use the word relationship because I don't want to talk about, addiction. I don't want to use different words. So a lot of us, we're in a relationship with something, whether it's a person, whether it's addiction, a drug, whatever your relationship is. A lot of us, we stay in bad situations, and it's hard for us to move on because of what we associate that person with, what we associate that habit with. And so you might be asking yourself, how can I allow myself to stay in a situation that's bad? How can I not move on? Why am I staying in a situation I know for a fact this person is giving me abuse? This habit is leading me to pain. This situation, this action is leading me to heartbreak. And you can't move on, right? You're stuck there. Trust me. I know how it feels. Let me tell you something about a habit. A habit is formed when we identify that a certain action brings us this feeling. All right? A certain action brings us happiness. A certain action brings us pleasure. All right? There's nothing wrong with the feeling, but the problem is the action can become dangerous, period. In life, I personally believe this, that we are programmed to pleasure and pain. All right? The reason why we do things, whether it be pleasure, joy, happiness, the reason why we do certain things because we associate something, right, that action, and saying this action brings me this feeling. This action brings me joy. This action brings me happiness, right? And then the reason why we don't do things because we say this action brings me pain. This action, brings me heartbreak. This action brings me trouble. The problem when we the problem that we face is that when we are wrapped up into a situation, all right? When we're wrapped up into a situation, we think that this person, this relationship is bringing us pleasure, but it's really bringing us pain. So what are we doing? We're misassociating, we're mislabeling, right? We have an identity that's not true. And so what I want to challenge you today, for you guys that can't move on, is to ask yourself, what's the reality of my situation? What's the reality of it? I'm not talking about the past, right? Because in the past, you got to realize you've conditioned yourself. The reason why we have habits is because you condition yourself to believe this person, this situation brings me this pleasurable feeling. That's why I always tell people, watch what you try once because you can become addicted. And so our mindset has already labeled this person, right? To say, this person brings me pleasure, and rightfully so. Because at the beginning of things, guess what? It's probably great. It's probably outstanding. It's probably like good. You're smiling, you're happy, you have joy, you have all these things. But the problem that comes in the hand is this: as time goes on, right? Whether it's abuse, whether it's cheating, whatever it may be, right? We forget because we're so wrapped up in the pleasure, we forget the pain that this person is causing us. And so I always talk about this, right? I always talk about the potential of a person. But sometimes you got to ask yourself this: what's the reality of who this person is? Who they were doesn't mean who they are. All right? Who they were doesn't mean who they are. Seasons change, newsflash, and people do too. Okay? So what you have to do is you have to change the association if you want to move on. And this is just one step of moving on. I can talk about a lot of steps, but you got to change the label that you put on this person or situation or habit, and you have to change the identity of this person, but you have to change the association. Because in your unconscious mind, you've already programmed yourself to say this person or this habit, right? This addiction, whatever it may be, whatever you're going to, this action is bringing me pleasure when it's not. And you're holding on to what used to be, that you're ignoring the reality of what it really is, right? So what you have to do is you have to change your identity. You have to change the identity, their identity, not yours. You have to change their identity. Know the reality of the situation. I'll put it like this. I use this illustration on Snapchat. I said, if I had a cell phone, right? If I had a cell phone in my hand, and every time I picked up the cell phone, right, it brought me pleasure, right? It made me feel great. It brought me happiness. I would continue always pick up that cell phone. Some of y'all probably laughing because with your cell phone, it brings you just that, right? Let's take it. Let's say on the flip side, every time I picked up the cell phone, it like shocked me, electrocuted me, right? Every time, my first time picking up, it electrocuted me. I wouldn't pick up that cell phone again. Why? Because I have now linked that cell phone with pain since the beginning. The problem that we face is simply this, okay? And I'm gonna put it to you like this. So with that cell phone, I'll paint this picture for you. Even if you picked up that cell phone that you already identified that it's giving you pleasure, right? You already identified that this cell phone brings me pleasure. Even if you picked it up occasionally, or even if you picked it up often and it shocked you every now and then, you're not going to put the cell phone down. You're going to keep going back to it because you already identified and conditioned yourself to make you say, this cell phone brings me pleasure. And that's the problem we have in life, period. With certain situations, we can't move on because we're so programmed. We have so conditioned ourselves to say, this brings me pleasure, so I'm going to ignore the pain that it's causing, period. All right? I even be funny with this. I was at a show this year, and you know, I always drink water because I talk a lot, right? And so one of my friends brought me a smart water, and I don't know, if the gas station, took the regular smart water out and, put, some tap water in there, but I drank the smart water. It was disgusting. It was terrible. And I'm just painting this picture to show you the power of associations, all right? And so it was terrible. I was like, this is the most disgusting water in the world. Where'd they get this from? I went to buy a smart water yesterday. Right, I went to buy one, I opened it up, and I don't know whether it was nasty or whether it was not. I'm sure it wasn't, but I've already made up in my mind that this smart water is terrible. So when I drank the smart water, it tastes disgusting because that's the association that I gave with smart water, that is nasty. The reason why you don't put your hand in a fire, right, is because you already associated yourself and conditioned yourself that fire will bring you pain. Period. The reason you do certain things and you go towards certain things is because you already conditioned yourself that certain thing brings you pleasure. And so I'm going to challenge you guys to recondition yourself. All right? Reprogram yourself, because you have to if you want to free yourself. And how you do that, like I said, there's nothing wrong with the feeling. There's nothing wrong with the feeling at all. But how you do that, because we're all human. We're all human, because you can identify the situation and say, okay, this person or this situation is bringing me pain. But that's not going to stop you from going back to that situation, because you already made up in your mind, as I said before, that this person brings you pleasure, that this person is a good person, because you're so holding on to the past that you're ignoring the reality of what it really is. All right. Or you're hoping that in the future that it goes back to what they used to give you. And I'm going to just be real with you. Sometimes it doesn't. Until a person makes a change for themselves, it's not. Until a person progresses, it's not. You're holding on to hope, right? You can hold on to hope as long as you want for a person, but if they ain't ready to change, if they don't want to change, guess what? They're not going to change. And so what I want you to do is do this. Recondition yourself, okay? And you have to be extreme with it, okay? You have to be extreme with it. Maybe you write down what will happen to your life if you stay in this situation, if you stay with that drug that you're doing, if you stay in that relationship that's abuse, that's no good for your life. You already identified that. You know that. Maybe you write down what your future may look like if you stay in this situation, okay? Maybe that's not strong enough, right? Maybe you write down what they give you. Maybe you have a picture of what this person gives you. Maybe you put in your phone what this person gives you. You change their name from such and such to pain. You change the name from such and such to black eye. You change your name from such and such to this and to that. So every time that you have the feeling, because you're addicted, that's it. Addiction, people think it's just drugs and all this. No, you're addicted. You're addicted to a feeling. And you already associated this person gives you this pleasurable feeling, so you keep going back to them, regardless of the pain that it causes, right? You're addicted, all right? Understand that. And there's nothing wrong with being addicted at times. You need to be addicted to the right things, the good things, right? But you're addicted. You have to admit that. You have to understand that. So every time that urge comes from that feeling, you say, okay, well, I'm going to go back to this person because they can give me this feeling. You have to stop it right there. You have to stop it with something so vivid, something so painful that it makes you not want to move on and go towards that action that you're about to do, right? So like I said, maybe it's a picture of what they're giving you. Maybe it's a note that you've written down and says, okay, look, I know what I'm feeling in my mind, because in my unconscious mind, This person gives me pleasure, but let me be real with myself. What's the reality of it? This is the reality, right? Maybe it's that drug that you're about to pick up. And you say, you know what? This is the reality. If I keep doing this, look at everything I'm going to lose. So I have to stop now. I might end my life. Look, maybe you paint a picture of you of a funeral service if you keep doing that. But it has to be something. I'm not going to tell you what to do because it's on you. I don't know how strong it needs to be, but it needs to be something so strong that it reconditions your mind and changes this situation, right? That you've been saying it's pleasure, it's pleasure, it's pleasure. With drugs, it's the same thing. Why people try drugs because at first what? It's pleasurable, right? It feels good. It's a great feeling. You're addicted to that feeling. But what happens over time? You realize that these drugs cause pain. These drugs break up relationships. These drugs make you lose your job. But you don't care about that because you're so in tune with the pleasure that it's giving you. And that's what you're chasing. You're chasing that high. Why they say you're chasing that high? You're chasing that pleasure. So you ignore all the pain that it's causing because you already programmed yourself. And I keep saying this because I want you to get it. You already reconditioned yourself that this is good for my life. Okay? So now you have to reprogram, re-identify, relabel. And you tell yourself, no, it's pain. This is what it is. It's pain. It's terrible for my life. Because like I said, when you realize that it's pain, you're going to run from it, period. The only reason you run to pain is because you have a wrong association with it. You think that it's pleasure. Somewhere deep down inside, even in your unconscious mind. That's why I say awareness is key. Knowing is key. It's the first step. It's not the only step, but bringing it from your unconscious mind to your conscious mind is key. Because now you're aware. Now you can say, okay, I get it now. This person, this situation is bad. It's pain. So now I have to come up with steps that keep me from going towards it. Because I already identified and relabeled it. All right? And that's one of the steps to how you move on. Period. You know, people can talk to you all you want to say, you know, this or that person's not, or the drug is bad for you. This person's not good for you. But you're not going to change until you change the association. Let's get